Is Call of Duty 2 worth the $70 price tag? We got bugs, we got crashes, hell, we got exploits, hackers, and possible pay-to-win transactions. I don't know, it's getting kind of close there. We also have the gold standard of FPS with fantastic gameplay and a ton of content. Let's find out what this guy's worth. Let's hop right into the trailer and then break it down.
Things take violence and timing. I can do both. Target destroyed.
Hey y'all, Fear Agent here, with Pants 404 and Cultural Rogue, and together we make up entertainment value. We will always pay for games out of our own pocket, and we are not sponsored by any publishers or developers of any game. Our reviews are based on the game's measurable value brought to you, the gamer, not the company. We are doing these reviews to showcase the value of the games and everything that they have to offer, and to answer the question, how much should you really pay? Okay, let's start with the basics. Today we're talking about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, a AAA title from Activision Blizzard, which continues the single-player story campaign from the previous title. It also has new and old multiplayer modes, maps, and weapons, with brand new co-op modes, third-person shooter mode, and a newly structured Season 1 Battle Pass. And of course, extra content like raids coming in the future. Next up is business model. Pants and I both have points we want to get across, and I'll go first. While there is a lot of recycled content from previous titles, there's also a lot of new ones. Like weapon tuning is pretty unique as far as we know, and if you've seen it before, please let us know in the comments. Another not so unique thing, but a welcome one, is that they took a lot of game modes and features from other games that we liked, like raids, DMZ, and interrogation, and they've implemented them with some of the best ideas from their previous games, making a hodgepodge of familiar content. They were clearly shooting to have a little bit of something for everyone, throwing ideas at the wall and hoping something would stick, like the upcoming Rocket League style game mode and the FIFA bundle. I'm not sure I'll play either one of those, but they are in the game nonetheless. A few things that are missing from this year's title is the fact that we can't have 10 active attachments anymore like we grew accustomed to from the previous title of Call of Duty Vanguard. Now we're limited to only 5. They also got rid of a long-standing mainstay, which is timers on XP tokens. Now it can run out and you have no idea that it even happened. They also don't show when your gun camos get unlocked anymore. And there's a few more things, but we won't touch base on them right now. Next up, Pants is going to go over one of the most controversial things going on in the gaming industry today, microtransactions.
Hey everybody, let's talk about microtransactions. Specifically, I want to talk about pay-to-win features in microtransactions. Now, we keep seeing the industry sort of creep closer and closer to this, and in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the vault system sort of edges it a tiny bit closer, and I'll tell you how. So basically, within the store system, you're actually able to go in and buy bundles. Within these bundles, they give you things like XP tokens, which, arguably give you an advantage, but we're kind of okay with that. That's all right. It's not too big of a deal. But it also allows you to unlock weapons that are specific to the vault with special tuning that's supposed to be quote-unquote expert and attachments you normally wouldn't have had unlocked yet. Now, this isn't exactly pay to win, but man, is it getting close to that. We can definitely see Call of Duty sort of edging that line across, so definitely something to take into account when you're getting into this game. Now, I will say each one of those bundles range from between $10 and $20, so getting those attachments is not cheap. And let's talk about some of the other types of microtransactions. Of course, it's Call of Duty. You know there's sick-ass skins. There's weapon counters and stickers, camos, etc. Guys, it's not going to make you a better player, but you're going to look damn good playing. All right, let's talk about some data. The first thing I want to show you is a chart with players here in blue and Twitch viewers here in red. As you can see, there is two trends that are occurring. Let's just start with the Twitch players. It is clearly trending down. People are not interested like they were when the launch first happened. Now let's look at that player base right there. This is what's really interesting to me. You see, it looks like the trend started to be negative, and then suddenly Warzone 2 and DMZ kicks out, and all of a sudden we have this massive peak. And if we actually remove those players, let's call them anomalies in our data, we see here that the trend actually does continue down. It's a little flat, and we give it a little bit of a boost from Season 1, but ultimately, it is a negative trajectory. Now, let's look at that over a 4-week period. As you can see here, with Warzone and DMZ, that peak is massive, and it is a sustained player base. However, Twitch viewers are continuing to decline. Now let's once again remove that anomaly of Warzone and DMZ. The true base game is trending down. It may be a little more flat than at the start, but ultimately, it is losing players. And I'll be honest, they're probably going to Warzone and DMZ. What does this do to the industry? If we start to look at these charts, and we're going to look at Call of Duty in blue, Battlefield 2042 in red, and Halo Infinite in yellow, the first things that should pop out really quickly is, obviously, if Call of Duty didn't have Warzone 2 and DMZ, it would be trending downward just like these games. In fact, the first 3 weeks look almost identical to Halo's trajectory. This is important because right now, Sony's talking to the UK, telling them that there is an unfair advantage if Microsoft buys Call of Duty and Infinity Ward and Blizzard, because Call of Duty basically has a monopoly on FPS profitability. And while a monopoly might be a stretch, it's a pretty good argument. Looking at this, I don't see Battlefield really making a dent over here in Call of Duty. Now, I don't know what way that's going to go, but ultimately, I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, let's look at one more data point. Let's say you're a Twitch streamer. What days work best for you? Well, this chart might help you out a little bit because, honestly, there's a lot of people viewing on Twitch on Sunday, and it looks like everybody's streaming on Monday and Friday. Another good gap here is midweek, so if you can get in there while people are working and watching Twitch, I definitely recommend it. Okay, for my next trick, and this will be the last thing with data, we can't actually recommend this for legal purposes for gray areas and all, but let's just say this is society, because you're Ghost, and your best friend is VPN for some reason. Now, let's just say you and VPN want to go on vacation somewhere where you can buy Call of Duty for cheaper than in the US. Now, if I were looking at this table, I might think, Argentina's probably a good place to go shopping. And don't forget that this is actually a commonly used practice. Russia up there is clearly using it because they can't even buy it right now for some, let's say, unknown world circumstances. Okay, anyway, of course we don't recommend that, but let's move on to marketing.
The marketing on this game is pretty much everything you'd expect out of a AAA title, let alone a Call of Duty one. They were saying that it's going to have better graphics than ever before. It was bigger and better. We've got old characters that we know and love from way back in the day that are returning, like Price and Ghost, and we get to see them updated and beautiful. They did do that pretty well, but they also had a lot of hype around them being on Steam for the first time. And also the new DMZ zone, which was supposed to be a Tarkov killer. I don't know if that's true, but it is a pretty sweet-ass mode. Now, as far as the security is concerned, they use Ricochet, it's updated, it's the same stuff they've always used, and like you'd expect, we're seeing wall hacks, flying boats, that was a new one for me, and they're just wiping people off the map with these floating boats in the air. That's pretty fun. This brings me to how the launch started. We have a day one server issue that gets, of course, fixed, but why are we having to deal with this with the AAA title this day and age? Unfortunately, it's all too common that us gamers have to deal with this. After that, We open up this game and we're faced with a UI that's based off Hulu, my least favorite streaming app. Hooray! What a great fucking waste of money. And then, when we're actually playing the game and it decides to load, we have missing loadouts and super jumping going on, and exploitations from bugs like invisible players that can just shoot you like you're a fucking noob and you didn't even know they were there. We had so many crashes that we've actually switched playing games. We can't even enjoy this game anymore because it's making us crash on all of the gameplay that can have a continued game loop. The campaign was crashing when we first started, and still to this day still does. The co-op mode, and same with the multiplayer, DMZ, and Warzone modes. We would have double the amount of hours between us, which right now is sitting at almost 200 hours, had these crashes not taken place to begin with. And the fact that we're a month into this and it's not fixed means that they aren't spending their money wisely. Why do we have all these microtransactions that we just spoke about if you can't even fix the game with the money we're feeding you? Which, as we just said, is over $1 billion. That to me is pretty unacceptable. But my feelings on that aside, and the shaky launch aside, if you do want to play this game, we're going to throw up some PC requirements right now so you can see if your machine can even handle this game. Now, up next, we have Cultural Rogue for community and customization.
Cultural Rogue here, we're going to dive right into customization. As far as that goes, the ability to change controls, adjust audio and video settings, and tweak all the bits and bobs one would expect to be able to, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is above par, with a few exceptions. One issue we found is that not all F keys map over correctly, which can cause issues due to the limited number of available unassigned keys. The Hulu UI bullshit is something you're unfortunately stuck with because there simply is just no way to customize it within the menu options. However, it is rumored that Activision is willing to listen to user complaints and has promised to rectify that oversight. Due to game controller limitations, third-person mode's over-the-shoulder key is linked to the sprint key, so attempting to bind it to its own key just isn't possible, which is unfortunate because the new third-person mode is becoming widely popular. The camera and POV for both the third and first-person modes look absolutely stellar, and toe the line on quality, possibly even exceeding the expectations of the gold standard that a Call of Duty title already is. Let's take a brief moment to go over the community and what to expect. Let's not beat around the bush here, folks. It's toxic as fuck. History repeats itself as a staple of trash-talking culture that Call of Duty has always been. As a mecca of teabagging over victories, nothing new here. Expect racial slurs, every thinkable insult under the sun, snot-nosed brats arguing with their mom, and mouth breathers who don't understand the concept of a push-to-talk button. Thankfully, there is a mute all option, which comes highly recommended. Also, a new reporting system is in place, but the jury's still out on whether or not it's effective.
Okay, so now Pants and I are going to be going over one of the better parts of this game, where it really shines, the game itself and the content in it. First up, we have the story. The length of this story mode is a pretty decent length as far as a Call of Duty campaign, running at about 7.5 hours if you're not crashing regularly, which of course we were, but that is pretty stark contrast to things like Doom Eternal and Far Cry games, which are about double the length. Now, where this does shine is it's incredibly cinematic. Everything was done very well, from the visuals to the audio. It had expert level acting from all of the CG that they did and the actors that they had in motion capture. Couple that with an engaging story and seamless level design, and we actually played one of the best campaigns we played in a long time. It isn't without its faults because we did have that car chase level and that was pretty whack, but you know, not every game's gonna be perfect to a T, and this one obviously has that one exception, but it was fantastic from start to finish regardless of that happening. So let's jump into the gameplay loop. It is kind of a grindy game and it's kind of weird the way they have it set up for you to get attachments, but once you do all of the grinding, the payout's pretty good because you do have guns that are pretty reactive and feel really nice. And then by the time you've unlocked everything, you can fine-tune them to kind of fit your needs and your playstyle, which I think was one of the best parts of the game and a great added feature. It's also one of the more challenging Call of Duty games that I've ever played. I played it on Hardened, and I was getting my butt whooped pretty much the entire time that I was trying to like goof off. So I had to pretty much stick to my guns, no pun intended, when I was playing this game.
Thanks for your agent. Let's talk about the multiplayer real quick. Now, this Call of Duty has all those classic modes you would expect to see in a Call of Duty title, like Hardpoint, Domination, Search and Destroy, Team Deathmatch, and of course Free-for-All. But they also actually added in a few new of those small modes that I really like third-person mode, and a personal favorite of those small ones is Prisoner Rescue. It's basically Counter-Strike Source or Rainbow Six Siege kind of thrown in there as a little new option. It's pretty fun. The things that I do think stand out the most of the new modes are the larger modes, though, like Ground War. It's basically Battlefield. I don't think it's a Battlefield killer because the maps aren't as large and you don't really have an aerial assault option, but it is very fun. And then, of course, Invasion, which is a lot more like Battlefront without the Star Wars. I actually like this mode a ton and was really surprised about how much I liked it. I know there's a lot of people hating on it right now, but I really enjoy it. I do think that the bots could use a little bit of a harder difficulty level added to them. It feels a lot more like they're in the normal area when I think they could be like, you know, hardened or veteran, because it would just add that extra bit of challenge. Now, there's also a brand new co-op mode. It's called Spec Ops, and something coming in the future called Raids, which we don't know what that is really, because it has not dropped yet. But we can tell you, I've played all the co-op modes. I actually really like all those maps. They're a lot of fun. There's a little bit of looting, but it's not like permanent. You don't have an outside stash or anything. It just kind of helps you through that level. The other thing they added is it's not normal co-op. Like, you actually have to do objectives that help each other complete the mission. It's pretty cool. Like the newest one person's on foot, one person's in a chopper, and you have to help each other attack different objectives. It's a ton of fun. I recommend it for anybody that already owns this game. And no Call of Duty review would ever be complete without talking about cool factor and funness. This game does it right. Folks, it is very addicting. It is the smoothest gameplay I think I've ever played in an FPS. Weapons feel fantastic to fire. The graphics are on point. The audio, it just doesn't get better. They really nail a gold standard here across the board when it comes to firefights, multiplayer. Even the single player is phenomenal, minus one part of a level. Moving forward, this should be your gold standard for what you expect out of a AAA FPS shooter. And ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, they know it. That's why they are pulling the stunts they are. That's why they made $1 billion in 6 days. All right, enough of the game. The meat and potatoes is out of the way. Let's talk about planned support.
Now, there's some good and some bad, and my takeaways will be pretty much sweeping for the entire game. The frequency of planned updates are going to be regular, as we could expect from any AAA title. They've been roadmapped, and so far they've been sticking with everything that they said they would. Time will tell if they're any good. And unfortunately, that time is now when it comes to the 3 NVIDIA drivers that we've had to roll back consistently. And we've tried pretty much everything that they've told us would work as a fix. We've tried verifying the files, we've tried uninstalling and reinstalling it. We've tried installing it on Blizzard, but it still crashes continuously. We've tried removing NVIDIA and Discord overlays to no avail. And we also tried giving prioritization on the router with fiber internet. That still didn't work. So we're kind of at a throw our hands up moment where we have moved on, like I said earlier, to other titles that are not giving us this much issue.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this review. Now, we're going to start off with some pros and cons. We're going to jump right into our pricing verdict and let you know how much value it gives you, the consumer and gamer. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the most common feedback we've seen and answer a couple of questions we've got from a business perspective. Now, let's start off with the pros. It's an almost perfect campaign. There's loads of content with great multiplayer modes for everybody. It's the gold standing for FPS gameplay, graphics, and audio. It's extremely well optimized, and of course, it has a very addicting gameplay loop. Okay, let's talk about the cons. It crashes like every 45 minutes. It's extremely frustrating. It's a $70 base game, one of the highest we've ever seen. It has a horrible UI that looks like it's based off of Hulu. There's exploits and hacks already popping up in the game. We're missing some basic features like XP token timers that honestly is non-negotiable. It's got a toxic community, of course we expect that, and microtransactions seem to be edging closer and closer to pay to win. Now, all that being said, let's look at our final price. Drum roll please. $67.48. Now, they were able to land here above a $60 price range because of the amount of awesome content they provided. They really did hit that gold standard in those FPS modes and on the campaign. It is truly the best FPS out there today. Now, if they fixed the crashes that are occurring, which I'm sure they will, they fixed that horrible UI, which they did say that they will do, and of course they try to continue to fight those exploits and hacks, and really give us some quality of life features like, please, XP timers, and allow us to know when we unlock skins. Then this price of this game is going to rise closer to $70, if not above that. Now, let's talk about how closely did they actually meet up with hype. The most common user feedback is around crashes, and of course, we agree with those comments completely. Activision Blizzard, get your act together, fix these bugs, and then, you know what? You'll probably meet the hype that this game had at launch. Thanks everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on social medias. We have other reviews coming out shortly. We'll see you then on Entertainment Value.